Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Rain Whalen.
And I'm Ingmar Stockholm.
Oh my god. I don't know which one was worse.
I don't know.
Of course, they won't get that.
They don't get that we've done this intro 3 times.
3 times. Well, and see what I was going to ask you. Have you ever been to IKEA before?
Once.
It's cool, but I would be too scared to get lost in there.
The name before was Ingmar IKEA. That's why he's asking. I didn't enjoy myself. I thought that people think IKEA, people make it a big deal, right?
Right.
I hated that I couldn't go anywhere I wanted. I hated that I really just had to follow this path.
I will say I wasn't expecting that when Ashley and I went the first time. I was like, oh, we have to go.
It's bizarre, yeah.
I will say though, the food there is shockingly good.
I did not have the food. I've heard the food is good.
The Swedish meatballs was great with the lingonberry sauce.
Mm-hmm.
I would never have thought to combine jelly with meatballs and gravy. Because you have to have the gravy on the meatballs, and then you have to. What I did is get a little bit of the jelly on my fork. And then,
you know who would? Haley Blair. She.
Oh, your wife?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was her name.
Yeah, she puts sausage. She dips it in jam in breakfast foods.
See,
Sausage.
See now that. I don't think I'm brave enough to do that.
That's good.
But
I've done it.
when Ashley and I went and we had the Swedish meatballs and they gave us that side of jelly, I was like, you know what, we're here, might as well. And I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. No, it's good.
That's where that chair is from. The chair's from IKEA.
The sweet with the savour. I hope my jacket doesn't break it.
I don't know. We've had it for almost a year. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's held up this far.
And also, since we're on the subject of IKEA, Sean, if you're listening, I know you're not. You were right. There's more locations of IKEA in Texas. Because remember on your bachelor party, I said Austin was the only place that had it.
Oh, and I knew that was wrong because I went in Dallas.
So. Yeah, and she said she went to the one in Houston?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sean, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
She doesn't watch that.
Yeah, I know she doesn't. Yeah, there's... Anyway. So if you have been able to figure out, by the fact we're talking about IKEA... we are on the last pick of the season from Jeremy. If you didn't tune in last week, this is a Swedish film called The Phantom Carriage. Now, since this was your pick, as I've done this whole season, how did you hear about this movie?
I don't remember. And it's been so long. It might be just as easy as I remember when I bought it. I bought it at Waterloo.
Nice. Shout out to Waterloo Records.
I was there. I was looking at the Criterion section.
Their dope-ass Criterion section.
I saw it, and I was like, this is cool. And read a little bit about it, probably. I don't think I had heard of it beforehand.
Okay.
This was just a complete blind,
Well, I mean...
purchase.
As I've learned with a lot of my Criterions, that those are the best.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it. I probably read the synopsis and was like, "Oh, that sounds cool," and it was like on sale or something, and I was like, "That'll work."
Yeah,
I
mean, the concept of the movie is really interesting. I was even telling Ashley about it, and she was like, "That is really cool." And I was like, "Well, hey, we have time before Jeremy comes over to record. You want to rewatch it with me?" And she was like, "Maybe." And then when I mentioned it was Swedish film, and it's a silent film, she's like, "Oh, never mind." I was like, "Oh, okay."
All right.
And also, how happy were you that they
didn't overlap?
That they didn't overlap.
Yeah, it got close in a couple of spots.
I was really happy. I was like, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah, it got close in a couple spots, but they did well in spacing them out.
Yeah. So, okay. So first impressions. What did you think?
This movie is not even in terms of silent films. I would just say in films in general, it's perfect. I don't know. I give it a 5 out of 5. It's awesome. It's so good.
I'm not going to give it a rating, not because I didn't dislike it, just because I think I need another rewatch before I can give a rating. But I did really enjoy myself.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the special effects. It definitely seems.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, as evidenced by our Metropolis episode. Shout out to our Metropolis episode. Foreign silent film, they were just ahead of the game. You know?
I mean, listen. So the fact that with the help of English translation, I was able to understand the entire thing, right?
Yeah.
Nothing was lost on me. Nothing was misinterpreted. Nothing was half done. Nothing was left for interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was long, right? It's almost 2 hours. Right?
I was not expecting that most.
It's not uncommon for silent films to be, over 2 hours, in fact, you know what I mean? Or 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was such a seamless, point A to point B fluid storyline that you can follow, and it's not hard, right?
Yeah.
For a modern audience is really remarkable, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So Jeremy, would you like to give a little people a bit? I mean, because the synopsis is pretty easy.
I mean, yeah, it's this man, David Holm, is not a great person.
Nope.
He's a drunk. He's not nice. He's terrible to his family. He's terrible to most people, right? Mm-hmm. He had heard from a drunk buddy of his, a drinking buddy, that if you're the last person to die on New Year's Eve, then you are forced to do the bidding of death and drive the carriage for a year, right? Mm-hmm. The carriage, which being the Phantom Carriage, is the one that picks up the bad souls from after death. So, of course, by sheer coincidence, that drinking buddy of his dies on New Year's Eve. A year later, David Holm dies on New Year's Eve, and they meet again. Mm-hmm. And David Holm is pretty much just shown what a horrible person he is. It's very much like, I think maybe shout out to our best episode, The Man Who Invented Christmas. It's very similar to A Christmas Carol, right?
Yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah, but rather than Christmas and rather ghosts of past, present, and future, it's one ghost showing him all his past mistakes.
Right. And really just telling him. He's not showing him shit. I mean, he's showing him the nurse, but other than that, which, by the way, this movie opens not with David Holm, but with the sick nurse that is about to die that wants redemption for David Holm, who she has met several times throughout the year.
Which we'll get to. We'll get to.
Which I love. That's how the movie starts. We're not, again, this is complex storytelling.
Yeah.
Story methods and organization of the plot and all that stuff, which I really liked. And then David Holm pretty much repents and becomes a better person, we hope.
Now, before we really get into it,
yeah.
So how did you feel about this 180? Because I think, as we've discussed, I know at some point you're not a big fan of 180s.
No.
So how did you feel about this 180?
I'm not convinced it's going to be a 180. I'm convinced he's in the moment, because he's done it before, right? Mm-hmm. We've shown that it was when his brother was arrested that he thought he was going to be a good person, and then one inconvenience, it was a big one, but it just, he just threw all that out the window immediately. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's almost like he's looking for an excuse not to be a good person. But okay, so let's start with, I guess we could start with David. I want to get to like the technical aspects. But I don't want to do that right off the bat, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we can start with David. I mean, because as we're shown through flashbacks, which I love, that majority of the film is telling us
it's
through flashbacks.
predominantly flashbacks, and sometimes
It's flashbacks within the
flashback, which is really cool because it's done in a way where you can still understand what's going on. Now, I will say that in the Criterion release, you are able to choose a score. I just went default.
Oh, I was wondering what that was.
Yeah,
I just hit play.
You're able to choose different ones, which will more than likely change your experience of the movie. Number one,
Like what you're saying is you could watch it chronological.
no,
Oh,
you can watch it with different music.
Oh,
Yeah, which again will more than likely change your perception and experience of the movie. Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just hit play.
There's a movie that they've also released that I love called The Passion of Joan of Arc, which is a silent film, which is done mostly in close-ups. It's unbelievable. It's so good. But you can watch that one with no music.
Really?
Completely silent. Yeah.
Oh.
Which is, I haven't been brave enough to try that, but yeah.
But anyway, so so as we're shown through flashbacks, David was a good person at one point.
At one point.
A loving father, great husband, and pretty much a different person from what we see.
Yeah.
But it's when he honestly meets, I'm assuming it would be the same pronunciation as our Hugo episode, Georges.
Georges.
When he kind of starts this downward spiral into addiction and alcoholism, which I just felt like it was all kind of funny that the guy who's telling him, you know, you fucked up, is the one who kind of started him on this path anyway.
And what I like and what it's also so much like A Christmas Carol, which is he is basically Marley, right?
Yeah.
In the fact that he's the one who got him into this in the first place.
Yeah.
And where he is, you know, given his punishment, he's having to pass it along to the person he drugged down with him, right?
Yeah.
Which I really, really liked. And I liked how this movie's not just, oh, he's a bad person. Oh, he died on New Year's Eve. Here comes Death's Carriage. Mm-hmm. Now they have to switch, right?
Right.
It's, they know each other, right? Which is fascinating. I love that.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, you know, I wasn't expecting our main character to. I wasn't expecting this to be a redemptive tale. Mm-hmm. I thought for sure David was going to die. They were going to switch, and the whole movie was just going to be following him.
Yeah.
Collecting these souls.
Yes.
But
which would have been cool.
Which would have been cool. Yeah. But no, it's understanding David, understanding why he is the way he is, and is there any redemption for him, or should he be, honestly forgiven anyway? Mm-hmm. Especially with the whole him being having consumption, and trying to just willingly pass it along by coughing in people's faces, which, of course, not really a post-pandemic era, but I mean, I'm like, come on, like you have no idea in almost 100 years that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
But I really like seeing that we're following this asshole pretty much the whole movie.
Yeah.
But through the eyes of other people, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think is a good segue into the nurse.
Yeah.
Nurse, I'm assuming, I read it as just edit.
Yeah.
It's EDIT.
Yeah.
Edit.
Yeah.
She is probably, besides David's wife, she's probably the most wholesome person in the movie.
Yeah, because she is she's a complete optimist. She just thinks everybody is capable of great things, right? And I mean, giving people so many chances. Well, David. I mean, David's the one that needs all the chances. Everybody else is like, okay, you know.
Yeah, like Gustafson, you know, she redeems him in an instant, and he joins the Salvation Army.
That's right.
Because of her,
right?
You know, and yeah, it's almost sort of like a test for her, because time and time again she runs into David, and she tries to convince him otherwise to change his ways.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Or do you think it's a situation of he doesn't want to, or he is too scared to?
Oh, good question. I mean, doesn't want to is an easy one, right? It's maybe too easy, right? No. You might be onto something where he's just
or too hard,
too scared, too hard, to change, right? So, I mean, it's so fascinating. What we're even talking about is just crazy, because we're talking about a movie that's over 100 years old, which
is wild.
Yeah, we are now to the point where movies 100 years ago were complicated narratively structured films, right? We're already talking about films that are over 100 years old that are full-fledged films, right? They're not experimental anymore. They're not trying to figure out what this technology is anymore. We're full-on storytelling now, right? Yeah. Which is crazy. But this movie is so interesting in the way that the plot is structured, because our main character isn't introduced until,
like 15 minutes in?
Yeah, I mean, we're a while, right? Yeah. And we're introduced to all these concepts and all these plot points so far ahead of time before we circle back to them and we understand, oh, that's why. Oh, that's why. Right? It's so much setup, and the payoffs are so well done.
Oh yeah, 100%.
In this movie. It's amazing. We shouldn't think this way. I shouldn't think this way, but I'm very impressed by this 1921 filmmaking.
Well, I mean, it is very impressive. I mean, like I said at the top of the show, even Metropolis is on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. When we touched very briefly on A Trip to the Moon for our Hugo episode, I mean, even then what Méliès did was...
You're right, it's tremendous. And that was in 1902. Right?
Yeah, and so this was 20 years later.
Yeah.
And, the storytelling for me was so... I mean, again, because there's all these just layers to it.
Yeah. It's sophisticated.
Yeah.
It's fully thought out. There is nothing missing, right? There's nothing in this movie, narrative-wise, that is lacking.
Yeah.
In terms of modern storytelling.
Yeah, really not. You have a protagonist and an antagonist. I would say the antagonist is David. Protagonist being Nurse Edith.
Everybody else.
Yeah, everybody else.
Not yours.
Yeah. But, we have conflict. We have resolution. Question mark resolution, because we don't really know if David is going to change after this.
Yeah.
Because now you're making me think like, okay, maybe he may have told his wife, like, no, I will be.
Of course, I think the assumption is that he's going to, because I mean, if not, then the movie would just keep going, right? That's right. You know what I mean?
But you think in the terms of the world building, in that moment, he's sorry.
Yeah.
And then he'll...
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing will actually change.
In that moment, he is changed. Whether or not that's going to stick, I don't know. And I'd like to think no, because I'm a pessimist and I like downer stuff like that.
Well, and again, just like with our... it was one we just recently did. I can't remember. I was like, I bet Jeremy's going to love this guy. Just how much, like, of an ass, not really just because you love him, how much of an asshole he is, but how much that he isn't willing to change.
Yeah.
I was like, Jeremy's going to love this guy.
Yeah, he just sticks to his guns. That's what's up. But
just coughing in people's faces.
Well, yeah, that's horrible. And of course, his jacket is what
Dude.
is what gets the nurse sick, right?
What is consumption, by the way?
No idea.
Okay, I was hoping
No
maybe
clue.
you would have looked it up.
Nope.
I didn't look it up. I know at the time
It's an old timey disease. I don't know. Something we don't get anymore.
Like tuberculosis.
Yeah, like TB. That's right.
Got to wheel you to the TB ward.
Yeah.
Well, clearly hasn't fucking killed him yet. Everyone,
I know. Yeah,
everyone
that's
else is
true.
fucking dying. But
Yeah, that's really interesting. You're precisely right. I have no idea what's going on with that.
I mean, Nurse Edit is literally on her deathbed, and,
Yeah.
and the motherfucker that gave it to him, 2 words, walking around still.
Still drinking, still hanging out.
I know.
With obviously new friends. He can't make old. He doesn't have old friends. Right.
Yeah. Also, it was pretty impressive to watch the director of the movie play the guy that we hate, you know?
Yeah.
Victor, what
Yeah.
did we determine his name was? Victor
Jordstrom.
Jordstrom.
Yeah, Victor Jordstrom.
Yeah. Really impressive. I was like, oh, that's the director.
So I'm glad we're going this way.
Okay.
I have. I want to go on one tangent
Okay.
before we get to the technical stuff, and then we'll go back and forth to the story.
Okay.
How excited were you when this is near? I don't know. We're about 2/3 of the way.
Okay.
How excited were you when you saw what would be the inspiration for the scene in The Shining? How excited were you when he picked up that axe and he started hurling it at the door?
Oh, dude. I was like,
And you're like, holy shit, there it is. And that is precisely the inspiration. It's where it came from.
really?
However, that scene in The Phantom Carriage is inspired by a scene in a D.W. Griffith movie a few years before. But Kubrick saw that and was
like, oh, dude, we got to do that.
yeah.
But of course,
It was paying homage to Phantom Carriage.
now, but see, he had a little hatchet.
I know.
And Jack Torrance had a full on axe.
Well, I know, but that's where it
Yeah.
came from, right? So
well, and of course, I'm pretty sure we mentioned it in our Shining episode that they had to use a real door because they didn't think that Nicholson could get through the fake door. But since he was a volunteer firefighter, he knew how to get through the door. So they're like, all right, just
yeah,
put the real one back then. I bet that was no fake door. That looked like a real door.
yeah. So the scene we're talking about is David is trying to get to his wife and kid that have barricaded themselves in a room.
Yeah, because he stepped into the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember a text card coming up, but she locks him in the kitchen, and she's gonna take the kids and go.
Yeah, and he takes a hatchet and breaks the door down, and it's very, I mean, it is the inspiration for that scene of The Shining.
Yeah, reaching through the hole that he's created to unlock the door, or at least to get the rest of the door handle off.
Yeah.
So he could open the door.
But here's what's so crazy about that story is that not only is it the inspiration for one of the most famous scenes in all of modern cinema, but it itself wasn't original, right? Because it was based on a D.W. Griffith movie years before.
Yeah, that is
wild to me, right?
But of course, I mean, like, as they always say, the very cliche thing of art imitates art.
I mean, nothing's original, right?
Exactly. Except for... No, that's...
Everything else in this movie, which is
everything.
insane.
I know.
And crazy. So here is how amazing Jornstrom is, okay? This man was able to pull off tremendous double exposure, right?
Yeah.
Perfectly synced double exposure in camera, meaning it's not done in post, it's not done whatever, it's done there, principal photography. He's cranking the camera, he's putting the film back in, he's cranking it again, right?
Yeah.
It's not how it's done. I don't think. But
I mean, that would be... I mean...
Here was my most jaw-dropping moments, is when he picks up the body.
Oh, the guy who kills himself?
Yeah, he picks up the soul out of the body, and it's just perfectly synced, right?
Yeah, we see the driver lean down. You see his hands go, and then the soul just comes right up.
Yeah, and it's
so cool.
I know. And so here's why that's so impressive. Okay, if you did that now, it'd be less impressive. I don't care how good you are. Okay.
Now, how good the CGI like toning and
Right. I don't care how good you are. Right.
yeah.
Here's why it's more impressive this way, is because cameras now crank themselves, right?
Yeah.
Not then, right? So what they have to do is they have to crank the film the first go around. The second go around, they have to crank it the exact same speed for it to, I mean, we're talking exact same speed for it to match up right. Mm-hmm. Right? Because if not, the one's going to be faster, one's going to be slower than the other, and it's not going to sync up. Right? It's just incredible. Yeah. Right? This hand cranked in camera double exposure, it's perfect. Right? And just the idea of it is amazing. Like, oh, we have to make them transparent, so we have to double them up, right? We can't, you know what I mean? That's the only way to do it. It's incredible. Right?
Yeah, it really was. One of the ones I really liked is when we think David's dead, which I guess you would say he had an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, when he like kind of gets up out of his own body and then sits next to it the whole scene.
Yes, I know. It's
cool.
there for so long, and you're like, how'd they do that?
Yeah.
You know, is it a still image, or is he having to lay there, right, for that long?
Yeah, lay there for however long. Yeah, it was so. Dude, it was rad.
It's perfect, right?
Yeah.
I also loved how they used the tenting for obviously for night, for day, right? That stuff that's like essential silent film stuff.
Yeah.
I really like how they're using the tenting also for flashbacks, right? For signaling flashback.
Yeah.
And not so much just the setup of course, George is going to tell you the story. We're going to fade and we're going to,
and then
fade back in.
Yeah.
And then here's the
flashback.
But I like how they're using the tenting for that as well, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Tinting, of course, I mean, the film is in color, not
full color.
Not in full color. The entire thing is red, or the entire thing is blue, or tan, or whatever.
Yeah, sepia, or yeah. Oh, so cool.
I know.
Yeah, dude. Doing the show for
a while,
4 years in March.
Cool.
We've been doing the show almost as long as I've been married.
Nice.
That's wild. Sorry, lost my thought. Doing it for this long, we've done a lot of black and white movies, but man, I've never. This one's just it's on another level, man.
Yeah,
like it really is. Like silent films, I tend to have a problem with. Not problem in the sense of I don't like them. It's hard for me to stay engaged.
Yeah,
without
I understand.
Without hearing someone talk, even if it's in a foreign language, it's hard for me to stay engaged. But man, I think I looked away, like down to my phone, maybe 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was in it.
Yeah.
And because all the practical, I mean, obviously everything was practical, but all the practicality of the visual effects.
Yeah.
I mean, the story, even the score for the default was amazing.
Yeah, that was also sort of a way to switch from, present to flashback, right? They would just change the score, right?
Right.
And the score would get pretty intense in certain places.
Oh, dude. Oh, yeah, like when he tears out those patches.
Yep.
It's like...
And when she's about to poison the kids and herself, of course.
Yeah.
First off, I thought for sure
he wasn't going to make it in time?
They weren't going to make it in time. And I'm like, yeah, this Swedish filmmakers, they don't give a shit.
Yeah. Is Lars von Trier Swedish?
He's Danish.
He's Danish.
Or he's from Denmark. That might be Danish. I don't know.
Sorry. Oh, no, yeah, you're right. That's Danish.
Okay.
Sorry to all of our Swedish and Danish fans out there that I just confused the two.
Yeah. Von Trier's.
I think we have less than like 1% fans in Sweden.
That's still some.
That's some. And who knows? Maybe it'll skyrocket after this episode.
There we go. We did it, guys.
Could you imagine? It's like the ratio. It's like United States, and then the rest of it's all Sweden.
Were you surprised by anything? Just in general, because I was, and so I just wanted to.
I was surprised. I was surprised by the level of David's just attitude.
Okay.
His zero fucks attitude. I was genuinely shocked by that. Just because, again, that's not how I expected the movie to go. Mm-hmm. Again, I expected him to swap.
Right, and then just start picking up souls. Yeah.
But it was one of those situations where, like, he can't get worse, right? Oh, no, yeah, he can get worse, and, the fact that he gets in 2 fights over nothing, when he's telling the flashback of George, he gets in a fight over cards.
Yeah, it was a card game, yeah.
And then he gets in a fight over, when he subsequently is killed, he gets in the fight because he doesn't want to go see the nurse.
Right.
And it just, that's what shocked me. Not the most, but it is one of the things that shocked me. I was like, he just keeps going. Yeah. It's like if, again, the point you've been making, if Charles Dickens wrote Scrooge he wrote Scrooge to be sort of hateful, but it's like if he wrote Scrooge to be just the worst, like worse than he actually is. I mean, that's how I was just like this, like, I was really like, there's no hope for this guy. There's none whatsoever. Yeah. So then I guess my second shocking moment is that he tells his wife he wants to change, that he is going to change, that things are going to be different now. I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting him to say this at all. I was expecting no lessons to be learned here because he's dead. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so those were the 2 things that kind of shocked me. Okay.
Mine aren't going to be as cool. I was shocked just in general, just by the suicide number 1.
Oh my God, yeah.
Where the guy kills himself, and I was like, holy shit.
I know, dude, yeah.
And of course, it's making the assumption that, that now he is now a damned soul, right? Yeah. And that's why the driver goes and picks him up.
Death couldn't be fucked with those guys.
That was one of the ones that I thought was, like, just perfect. Double exposure of them picking him up. Yeah. That one was really cool.
I know you're still talking about. I just want to say, like, I love how the driver just fucking throws them in the carriage.
Oh yeah.
It's awesome. He's fucking.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. All right, anyway, okay, sorry.
I was more impressed by the underwater scene than shocked. It wasn't shocking. It was just impressive. Yeah. That was really cool. Retrieving that guy under the lake. That was really cool. Just how far we went with the poisoning of the kids and how close that got. Yeah, that was shocking because I was like, oh shit, like it's gonna happen, which is why I was like, yeah, he's not gonna make it in time. And then that's like gonna be his punishment. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm like, that's rad. Like, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Obviously it didn't happen.
But no, he time traveled 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And just barely made it.
Barely made it.
Marty McFly'd it.
Yeah, I was shocked that he got to be put back in his body. I was like, oh, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I read about that, and all people would say is that he just regained consciousness. Mm-hmm. Like, almost like he was just knocked out.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that leads us to some theories. Uh-huh. Was he just not hallucinating because he was just, passed out, but do you think he, quote, dreamt that stuff? Because what he would only have he would only have the knowledge of this because of Georges, right? Mm-hmm. George, by word of mouth, he only heard that he died on New Year's Eve. He doesn't know that as a fact, right?
True. Yeah.
Do you think this was just a manifestation of his conscience?
Of his like guilty conscience.
Yeah, of his guilty conscience. And he's like, well, if it's true that George died, he would be the new driver, right?
Yeah.
He would have knowledge of this and that, right? However, it obviously doesn't make sense because she actually was going to poison the kids, right? I mean, that, that's sort of like, whatever. I guess that's the genie in all of it. That
I mean, it could work. I mean, it could work.
What I mean by that is Genie in Ferris Bueller is the reason Ferris isn't a manifestation of Cameron's imagination, because then Genie wouldn't exist or whatever, right?
Yeah, why would Genie care so much about...
Right, and she's the one that's mad at Ferris, her brother. So, I mean, it's like she has her own scenes with whatever. Yeah. That's what I meant by that. You're right.
Well, I mean, but it could work that way because our conscious and subconscious holds a lot of information. So George telling him this story, of course he would, if it was a dream, of course he would imagine it being George because he's the one who told him. And then by word of mouth, well, I heard he died, so that would mean he is the new
Yeah.
So it could work.
Yeah.
I like to think we're taking the story at face value. He really did. Maybe he died for a little bit. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, people are declared dead for maybe 5 minutes, but then they're resuscitated back. But so maybe he did die, really did die, but he really did interact with George. Learn the error of his ways. Yeah. I'm going to say he just regained consciousness. Okay. I don't think... Because George says he has no power over any of that.
The living, yeah.
So I would say he just regained consciousness.
Just in time.
Just in time. But I mean, it could work. Yeah. It could work as he just dreamed all this up. Manifestation of his guilty conscience. Mm-hmm. Conscious. I said that right. And then at the last minute, saved the day, saved his kids from being poisoned by their own mother. Yeah. Which we should mention, the reason why she was going to kill them is because she didn't want them to contract consumption because she had, right? She had contracted it, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So she did not want them to contract consumption, which apparently this disease ravages you. So she'd rather her kids die than have to go through that. Right. Which, I mean, it's a mercy killing, but that's still awful. Anyway, long-winded explanation to say, I think it could work. Okay. It could work, but I think Victor was just wanting the audience to take it at face value.
Yeah, that's probably... Yeah. You're probably right. All right, let's see. I didn't have time to write notes.
That's okay.
So I'm not... or look up any... I mean, I read a little bit beforehand, before I watched it. But today was so busy working, I had time to...
Oh, that's all right, man. I mean, we could just talk about... I mean, I know we've been telling everyone, Zach.
Yeah.
The things we liked. I mean, we can say some other things we liked.
Yeah, sure.
I really liked... I really liked all the flashbacks. Okay. I mean, I truly did. Like, I mean, yes, it's the main part of the story that, it was Tarantino before Tarantino. We're getting all these pieces told to us what happened, years or months ago. Mm-hmm. But, I loved... In the flashbacks, I would assume then play in chronological order. Yeah, but I love the fact that, we get to see David before, he was a miserable bastard, where he was, he loved his kids, he loved his brother, loved his wife. And then, we just see his descent into...
Well, and then there was that that weird scene, which maybe you're talking about, and I interpreted the scene by the lake as what could be. Right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I interpreted it as,
because it does dissolve, and he's out there with his brother, George. Okay.
Yeah. Because as George was saying, like, if you hadn't met me, like you would have been a good person, right? And then it dissolves, and then it goes into the.
See,
I
didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I just assumed that he took George out there because he'd been out there before.
Maybe.
So, I mean, that could be also true.
Yeah.
But see, that makes some sense, because had he never met George, he would have been more present in his kids' lives.
He'd have been a good person.
He would have been a good person. Yeah. Again, which I find that concept so wild, that the guy who did this to him is the one saying, like, shape up.
Yeah.
Even though I'm the one who did it to you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, the movie's got layers. And it's so cool. Like, I'm really glad you saved this one for the end.
Cool. I didn't mean to.
I mean, yeah, but
Cool. It was a happy accident.
how it all worked out. Yeah, I'm glad you saved it for the end, and I'm glad it starts. I mean, the camera can't see it, but I'm glad it starts my Criterion set. It's the beginning of it.
I have those flipped, so I have the kid.
The kid.
Sorry.
Yeah. I used the letterbox one.
Oh, I just wanted Chaplin to start my. I didn't care. So they both said 21, so I don't give a shit. So, speaking of Chaplin, I had mentioned this last week that he said this was the greatest film ever made. Right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you if there was any more to that. Like, if he...
No, I didn't look it up.
Oh, okay.
Any more than that.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What do I use you for?
I also read that Ingmar Bergman did, in fact, watch this every summer, either by himself or he would invite people to watch it.
That's wild.
And this is like his main source of inspiration.
Yeah.
Especially when making Wild Strawberries, which Victor Bjornström is in. Wild Strawberries.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I was telling you off mic, I might need to start. Even though Hour of the Wolf wasn't my cup
you
of
got
tea.
one down.
Yeah, even though it wasn't really my cup of tea,
God,
I do want to see some more Bergman.
God, I love
I could just fish out,
so good.
Fish out the $300 and get that fucking huge ass set on Criterion.
Yeah, you could.
I mean, technically, I've got the $200.
What's stopping you?
I mean, they can't see it again. The $200 Zatoichi set. So I mean,
Zatoichi set's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So. Okay.
So I mean, so it's wild that this movie has had such an impact on people that then in turn brought an impact to the world of cinema. You know,
yes,
like
absolutely.
With Chaplin, you know, as we talked about. I mean, we didn't touch on it a lot in our Chaplin episode, mainly because the movie itself doesn't touch on that. Mm-hmm. But, you know, when I did my solo episode for Limelight and had your video spliced in, you know, Chaplin was so influential. And then, you know, of course, Bergman is, I know he's listed a lot as one of the greatest directors.
Big time.
You know, again, like I said, even though Hour of the Wolf wasn't my cup of tea, I didn't hate the movie.
Yeah.
There were things about it that I loved. And of course, Max von Sydow.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
I know.
Yeah. So it's just wild that, I mean, but it's almost like the context of our modern film of, you know, comparing Tarantino and Scorsese and, you know, and it's just wild that this movie that's now 100 years old was able to do that for those guys.
I know. Yeah, it's sort of like a snowball effect, right? I mean, even Bjornström.
Oh, okay.
Jesus. Sorry. I want to pronounce the S so bad. Even Bjornström took inspiration from D.W. Griffith, you know, 3 years before.
Yeah.
This movie came out, right?
Yeah.
It's like that. I mean, it's always taking what you like and making it yours, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's an homage, which even still with Kubrick,
Yeah.
This was a pretty explicit homage, yet by having it be a little more aggressive, having it be a little more choppy with the camera movements, right? It following the axe head,
Yeah.
right? It's still his own, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the moral that we've just kind of established with everyone is this is what makes film and cinema so good, is that it snowballs and people are able to bounce off of one another. And honestly, man, I don't know how we could top this one, man.
I don't know. Listen, man, I'm still floored by just the in-camera effects, right?
Yeah.
It's some of the best special effects, in silent film. For sure, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and
not the best, some of the best.
Because definitely some of the best.
Because we still got Georges Méliès, which was doing this stuff in small scale, for years and years before.
Yeah,
this.
and he was cranking those movies out like they were nothing.
I know, and they're so good. Right?
Yeah. Because the only other silent film I remember watching, besides the two, this one and Metropolis that we've done for the podcast, is I've seen the original Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a silent film.
Yeah, 25.
And the practical makeup on his face is insane. But from what I remember, I don't think it had very many in-camera effects like this did.
Right.
Which is, and again, yeah, I, just like you said, I the whole time I was like, how did they do that?
Yeah, that's so crazy.
How? Like, because, of course now, we have computers and special effects.
I mean, even if you took a 35 millimeter film camera to do it, you're still cheating because you're not cranking it yourself, right? You're cheating because it's still a modern machine that can do it smoother and easier, and
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've talked about it a little bit. I mean, I know this is sort of a tangent too, but yes, it's awesome to see a lot of directors now going back to film. But yeah, you're right. It's still very smooth,
To me, that makes no difference to me.
Yeah.
The argument between film versus digital, no one wins because it's all good. Why is one superior over the other?
I would say people should watch Tenet, because Tenet was all done on film, or even Nope, because those were done on the exact same cameras.
Okay.
Exact same IMAX film cameras.
I didn't know that.
Because Hoytel, who Nolan's collaborated with, was the director of photography for
Got
Nope.
it.
And then watch something from David Fincher.
Yes, I was just about to say David Fincher. Yeah, something in his latter career of David Fincher, because he's a disciple of digital film.
Perfect. So I would say watch Nope and then watch Zodiac.
Yeah.
Both films look amazing. One was filmed on film, one was digital.
Yeah.
And
it's incredible. Both are incredible, and it's who cares,
yeah.
right?
And shout out to Zodiac, by the way.
Yeah.
I ran across one of my favorite scenes in that movie recently. The whole are you okay? No. Thank you for asking. Fucking love that scene, dude. Okay, Jeremy, are you ready to wrap up?
I am.
I think we've been babbling.
I've exhausted what I can do with the knowledge I have for this movie. It's just too good, man.
It really is.
It's great. It's to me a perfect silent film.
Yeah.
And we're gearing up to perfect film, right? We're up there. I gave it a 5, of course, on Letterboxd. Yeah. And I'm happy we did this. And it's gearing us up for next season because I have a few silent films for next season. So, and one of them's 4 hours. So, So, yeah. Oh, an oops, I forgot.
Oh, okay.
Here's what's interesting, and I think it has to do with the reels.
Okay.
It's split into parts.
Yes. So
the movie split into parts.
Cannot believe because as I've said, I fucking love it when a film does that.
But it's unnecessary that it's split into parts because, yes, there is a slight act break, but the next part is just an immediate continuation. There's no time in between. It's almost like, yes, the sentence is over, but the next one connects immediately, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like that. I think it has to do with the reels. Like, this reel's over, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
Switch to the next one, please. That would be it's almost like their cigarette burn. It's like end of part one.
Yeah.
Fuck, this one's long. You know?
Maybe. I mean,
it's long enough to be that many reels. So,
to be 5 reels.
I think so.
5
Yeah.
Parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not going to try to do the math, but the Buster Keaton shorts, they were 2 reelers. That's what they would call it because they took 2 reels. So I don't know, it was like 30 minutes. So yeah.
Interesting.
Could be 5 or 6.
Now I kind of want to rewatch it in time when each segment ends.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So almost forgot. Look at that. Look at us go.
yeah. But yeah, man, same. I loved it. I thought it was great. I definitely want to rewatch it.
Okay.
Because like I said, I didn't hate it. I just don't have enough judgment to decide how many stars I would give it.
That's fair.
But I still loved it. I definitely, I mean, and honestly, you wouldn't, I mean, maybe you might disagree with me with this, but the cards you kind of don't really need throughout the whole movie. You need it for context, but honestly, you don't really need it throughout the whole movie.
No, yeah, there's
a few things you need context
of course,
for.
right? You do need a bit.
But then after, I mean, truthfully,
there's a few scenes that had just pure dialogue that, you know, could be insinuated through body language, but it would be hard. And if you like that, watch The Tribe. So that's I've talked about it before on the show. It's done in Ukrainian sign language that does not have subtitles. So you have to, and it's on purpose, no subtitles. So you have to insinuate what's going on through body language and just where they are, right? So set or whatever you want to call it, on location, but in body language.
Gotcha.
It's awesome. And you're going to hate the sound of shoes because no one's talking and there's not a lot of background noise.
But all you can hear is shoes.
You can hear their shoes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd probably drive me crazy.
Yeah. But it's a great movie. The Tribe.
Luckily, we're not doing that next week.
Ugh, I wish. Anyway.
But yeah, so now comes the part of the show where we have sort of begun the wrap up of the season. Thank God. Truth be told, the season was going to go on a little bit longer, but I did some math and I did some looking, and I'm like, oh, you know what?
Like, whatever. We've done what we wanted.
We've done. So now it's time, truthfully, for, I would say, our favorite part of each season, our series, our end of season series.
Yeah.
Which, of course, now it's my pick. And sticking with the theme.
I honestly don't remember what I did last time.
Last season was...
Was it the Before trilogy?
It was the Before trilogy.
Nice. Good job, Jer. That's a good one.
My series, I did bend the rules a little bit for this season because I've seen part 1 of this trilogy, because I've also picked a trilogy. Now, it's not unlike the Before trilogy. These 3 movies don't directly correlate,
right?
But the director considers these 3 films a part of a trilogy, which he calls the dystopian trilogy. Correct?
I don't know.
Future Rain put up the edit if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So we are doing Terry Gilliam's dystopian trilogy. Again, Future Rain if I'm wrong. Put it up. We haven't done a Terry Gilliam movie, have we? This at all?
I don't think so.
I love Terry Gilliam.
I know.
I think he's...
Are you gonna get the Munchausen?
Obviously. Mainly because I remember seeing the trailer for that movie on one of the VHSs that we had growing up, and I was like, I was so fascinated
Yeah.
by that. And so
I get it.
the fact that it's getting a Criterion release makes me so happy.
Already out. Go get it.
It is out. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Hang on, I need to go buy some. What is the dystopian trilogy? Well, it's 3 movies that he did almost sort of in each decade. 80s, 90s, and then 2000s. So the first movie of the dystopian trilogy is Brazil. Now this is where I'm bending the rules. I have seen Brazil because I was very excited to watch it. So I have seen it, but I haven't seen the other 2.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to. Jeremy, what did you ever think of Brazil when you saw it?
I am fascinated by the way Terry Gilliam views his version of the future.
Yeah.
I love using their modified old technology.
Yeah.
Right? It's not new technology. It's just a computer screen with a giant magnifying glass in front of it, right?
Yeah,
to
so
make
cool.
it bigger. It's stuff like that I really like. It's I'm sure there's a word for it.
Yeah, and also, if you like every British actor under the sun
Yeah.
in one movie, Jonathan,
In De Niro.
yeah, and De Niro, yeah, Jonathan Pryce, Ian Holm,
Is Bob Hoskins in
Brazil.
Brazil?
I don't think he is.
Okay. You're probably right. I have no
I
idea.
feel like he
I
was,
thought he was, though.
I feel like he was. No, he is.
He is in it.
He is.
You're
He
right.
is. Yeah, Bob Hoskins. Yeah, man, I can't wait to do this one, mainly because I'm really excited to see the other 2 movies, to see how it all, because I would assume it all, in a way, ties together.
You can tell me the other 2. We'll
Oh,
get
sure.
it.
Fine. I guess he wants me to tell you the other.
Jesus.
2. The second one is 12 Monkeys. And then the third one is the Zero Theorem, because when you sent me the link, I saw it had the Zero Theorem.
Yeah, it's Zero Theorem. The Zero Theorem.
I've been saying Zero Theorem.
I've seen. I don't think I finished it. So it's like I haven't seen it. I don't remember a fucking thing about it. So that one I haven't seen. The other 2 I have, but
Yeah. But
you're really gonna dig 12 Monkeys, I think.
well, let's see it. I want to say it showed up on one of Eli Roth's History of Horror for some reason. I think, even though it's not necessarily a horror film.
It's not, but I can see where there are horror influences, things like that. You know what I mean? Like there's aspects of it in there,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, I mean it's a great movie.
Yeah, but
You'll love
so here we go. Part 1 next week. So everyone, we hope you enjoyed the Phantom Carriage, and we'll see you next week for our end of season series, Brazil.